Our last trip down to Orlando was about 2 weeks in October of 2023. Since we were going to be there for so long, we did consciously decide to hop hotels a few times. Although it was not quite as wild as our September 2021 trip, we did learn some lessons about split stays there. We ended up staying at 5 hotels total. We'll give you a rundown in this video. A special girl decided she wanted to join us. If you don't know us, by the way, hey, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Adam.
You're at the Pixie Dust PhD YouTube channel, and the special guest gets to come and go as she pleases. Thanks so much for being here. If you do enjoy this, please hit that thumbs up button to like the video and subscribe to the channel. You can then ring the bell icon to receive notifications whenever we upload new videos. And there's tons of content on the channel in general, also a lot from this trip. So if you do enjoy this, please go check out some other videos because that feeds the algorithm. For our first hotel, we decided to stay off property and we found a really great rate at the Hilton Grand Vacations Club at SeaWorld. This is a timeshare, but like many timeshares, you can still just pay a cash rate and treat it like a hotel, essentially. We stayed in a 1-bedroom. They do have smaller studio-sized rooms, but we wanted the extra space because we thought we might be working from home. And for 3 nights for 2 adults in this 1-bedroom, the rack rate that we purchased was $520. And then through a perk with our Hilton Honors American Express Aspire credit card, we were actually able to take $250 off of that, essentially. It was a rebate, so we did pay the full $520 and then $250 came off. So overall, less than $100 a night for like an 800 square foot room.
Yeah, it was a great deal, and yeah, just have to play the credit card game to get these kinds of points.
Yeah, we did get that original rate through Mouse Savers, which is a free online website that you can use, and if you sign up for their newsletter, this is how you get those like really good deals. I don't know how they do it, but they basically get corporate rates sometimes for Mouse Savers newsletter subscribers, so definitely sign up for that. This is a timeshare, so the only thing I was concerned about based on a bunch of reviews I'd read online was the negative aspect around how much are they going to pressure you to buy into the timeshare. When I checked in, there was a prompt of like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you want to learn more about the timeshare? And I just said, oh, sorry, we have plans, and that was it. They said, okay, no problem. And there was really no pressure, which is, for me, was such a relief because I'm kind of bad at getting out of those situations, honestly, but it was very smooth sailing for me. And because it is a timeshare, you aren't getting daily housekeeping per se, so there are some differences to consider, but because the rate was so good, we just didn't want to pass it up. While we were staying at Hilton Grand Vacations Club at SeaWorld, we were pretty much going to Universal. So as the name implies, it is basically right at SeaWorld. So you aren't super close to Disney, you aren't super close to Universal, but you are kind of in the middle. If you're more of a Disney person, it's actually fairly close to Disney Springs.
Yeah, I was surprised how close it was to Disney Springs with SeaWorld in the name.
If you do want to do some Disney, some Universal, I think that location's actually fairly decent as a hub, but just know you are going to be driving probably at least 15 minutes everywhere you're going.
Yeah, definitely a rental car kind of situation.
Yeah, and we did have a rental car. But then of course, if you're staying off property, whether you're going to Universal or Disney, then you are going to end up paying to park, so be prepared for that extra fee. The room itself, I thought was awesome. The inside was huge, spacious, like a lot of the furnishings I thought were very beautiful and modern. It didn't feel worn down. It didn't feel like a used and abused timeshare. The bed was also pretty dang comfortable, and we had a whole patio to ourselves, which was cool. We really didn't experience any of the amenities. We didn't use their pool. We went into their little like quick service cafe mart thing maybe once or twice. We didn't eat there, but every time we ran into staff, they were friendly. We certainly didn't have any real issues. The entrances into the rooms are on the outside, which isn't terrible, but it's not my personal preference.
Yeah, and your room is probably pretty far away from the front desk. So if you ever do need to run to the front desk for whatever reason, it's quite a trip.
Yeah, that's true. It is pretty sprawling. It's a timeshare with a lot of units. So unless you make a request to stay in a specific building, which we didn't because I had no clue like what buildings were good, you're probably going to end up pretty far away from central amenities.
There was always someone in a golf cart chauffeuring guests around. It was pretty funny.
At least the 1-bedroom that we had, and I would imagine the larger sizes, probably not the studios, though I'm not sure, did also have a washer dryer. So a good place to really make a home base if you do want to be kind of centrally located, but at the same time, a little bit of a ways away from everywhere. You could stay there for a while and really be comfortable, do your laundry. There was a full kitchen. It was very well appointed. I definitely would stay there again if the price was right and if it made sense. I don't feel like we have to go back, but yeah, overall, I would say I was pleasantly surprised.
I agree. Overall, definitely where you can get a good deal because it's like a Hilton timeshare. But yeah, overall, if I'm doing like a split, Universal and Disney, and I want to be in one place the whole time, get a good deal, like it's definitely somewhere I can see ourselves staying again.
Yeah. From there, we moved to one single night at Loews Royal Pacific. So this is an on-property highest level resort at Universal. We also split that with a friend. The one night for us ended up, after fees and taxes and everything, I think being about $630. And we split it 3 ways evenly, so about $210 a person. It definitely is expensive, but you do get that unlimited express pass for your check-in and check-out days. So that was part of the calculus of us deciding to do that.
Yeah, with an express pass, you can pretty much get everything done in a park in 1 day at Universal. So 2 express passes, 2 days, you're going to be able to do both parks pretty much in their entirety.
Yeah. We have stayed at Loews Royal Pacific once before, again for 1 night, strictly for express pass purposes. Honestly, it's a really great resort. I think that Royal Pacific is the closest thing to like an actual 5-star hotel on theme park property that we've experienced at least. So I know Universal has other premier level hotels that are probably just as nice, if not nicer, but thinking about like Bay Lake Tower, the Polynesian, you know, your Disney comparators, I think Royal Pacific is nicer. That's also the most comfortable theme park bed that I've slept on for sure.
Yeah, they put something magical in that mattress.
Yeah. And everything just is a little bit turned up, like the lobby's a little bit nicer. Staff are, I don't want to say more professional, but they seem to be sort of more attentive, and nothing against the Disney cast members by any means, but yeah, there just is a level of like, you could transport that to New York and I would believe that it was a 4 or 5-star hotel in New York. And even inside your room, you just get a little more amenities. So there's, you know, Q-tips and cotton balls and things like that for you. I did not do a full room tour this time because we were there for such a short period of time and we were running ourselves pretty ragged trying to get everything done. But if you want to check out the 2021 room tour from Loews Royal Pacific, I will link that down below.
When you're staying at the Royal Pacific, you can get to the parks either by walking or taking a boat. The walkway takes about 10 minutes. It's pretty convenient. There's one time where I had to run back to the hotel and it was not that long of a detour even though we were in the parks.
Yeah, that path, especially from Royal Pacific, pops you out right by the Margaritaville, I think. So It's like right at the bridge going into Islands of Adventure. So it honestly is like extremely close. If the boat is right there, maybe the boat would beat the walk, but you do have to take into account like the boat has to dock, load everyone, leave, dock, unload everyone. We did take the boat in 2021 and I found it to be slow. So yeah, you're paying for Express Pass, you're paying for the walkability, the close access to the theme parks, and you're paying for just the overall niceness of the hotel and your room. Yes, it's very extravagant. You know, we spent 1 night there, we spent $420 between the 2 of us, so more than our entire time at the Hilton Grand Vacation Club SeaWorld. It is very nice. It's definitely a treat. It's definitely a splurge. I don't know if we would have done it if we didn't have a 3rd person to split the cost with.
Right.
But we did, so yay. I can definitely recommend it if you're not sure if you want to go there or not. And frankly, both times now that we've been, I leave thinking like, dang, I wish we had more time to just hang out at the resort. More time though obviously means staying there more nights and that just gets very expensive, but maybe someday. From our 1 night at Loews Royal Pacific, then we moved over to the Disney Vacation Club portion of our stay. So from here on out, all of this was on our DVC points. We did use a mix of 3 U-Series worth of points, most of those coming from our Bay Lake Tower contract. We did supplement just a little bit, just for 1 extra night from our Villas at Disneyland hotel contract. Our first resort for Disney Vacation Club was the Polynesian, which for staying there was new to us. We booked a standard view studio for 5 nights. Now the standard view studios at the Polynesian are very much on the large size compared to other studios in the DVC portfolio at Disney World. That being said, most of that is taken up by basically you have 2 bathrooms. It's not larger, in my opinion, in the living space or the bed area. Like that felt very standard size, and then it was just like, oh, you get an extra bathroom.
Yeah. Less storage than comparable or smaller rooms at other resorts.
Yeah, there was like no shelving really or drawers. There were like underbed drawers.
Right.
But there wasn't like a cabinetry piece for you to store things in, which felt so weird because the room is so huge. But yeah, all that space just goes to bathroom, I guess. Having 2 bathrooms was fun and definitely like made things faster for us. One of them is like a waterfall shower, and the other is your pretty typical tub shower combo. So it was neat to have those, but I don't know, I guess I was hoping for a room that was going to be that big that the living area would feel bigger. But overall, a very nice room, and it's what you'd expect for a studio. Specifically for those DVC buildings at the Polynesian, they are in the existing longhouses, so the entrance to your room is inside, but the entrance to the building is outside, obviously. And we were on an upper floor and would often just take the stairs because the elevator was so slow. And the stairs were just like bug magnets for sure with the lights on them, so that was kind of a pain to deal with all the time.
One thing I really did like was how close our particular longhouse was to the Ticket and Transportation Center.
Yeah.
That was a really nice perk.
It was like a 3-minute walk from our door to getting to the TTC and then, however long to wait for the monorail. But yeah, that room is closer to the monorails and the boat and stuff at the TTC than parking at the TTC, almost for sure. And the DVC buildings can be a little bit of a hike over to sort of the main amenities at the Poly, but I didn't find it to be bad at all, honestly.
No, and walking around the beach to do so, it's not a bad way to go.
Pretty nice. We did luck out with good weather. I would say if it was raining or if it was blazing hot, I would probably be more annoyed about that. And I know that is kind of a common complaint from guests for these more sprawling resorts, that like there is so much time you have to spend outside going between amenities and your room. And that's something that, for example, a tower would address. We often spend a lot of time at the Polynesian just like eating and drinking, so it was fun to be staying there and being able to just like pop into Tambu Lounge or like go to Trader Sam's and like come back to our room and not have to worry about transit anywhere else. So that definitely is a perk. And like Adam said, the location relative to the TTC is also pretty awesome. Overall, do you think you would stay there again?
Yeah, I think I would.
I'm definitely looking forward to the tower. It'll be interesting to see what the rooms are there as well as the room layouts. I would stay at these existing studios again, but I don't think they're like super high on my list. The points cost is pretty high, and I mean, you are getting a large room, so there's that. But for me, I would rather have one less bathroom and more space to sprawl out in a large room. So I don't know, pros and cons. The location also is good, but it's good asterisk you have the TTC, so then you still have to deal with the monorail or the boat or whatever to get to Epcot or Magic Kingdom, which is just not my personal favorite. From there, we moved over to the boardwalk, and this was actually the first time that we had Disney move our luggage for us. So we dropped our luggage off with Bell Services at the Poly. We told them we were transferring to the boardwalk. They made sure they wrote it on all the tickets, and they were like, hey, we'll take care of it. It might not get there till 4 or 5 p.m. though. So we did have a small go bag, which we had a car that we put in the trunk of our car just in case. And then we went about our day. We got into the boardwalk room in the afternoon, and luckily our bags had already arrived. So that was actually a really seamless transfer, and I'm happy to report that, we had no problems, and I feel confident using that system in the future. Typically in the past, we've always moved our own bags. It's just kind of worked out where, we were leaving a hotel and moving to Bay Lake Tower and going to the Magic Kingdom. So like, why not just take our stuff with us? I also am a little bit paranoid and like prefer to keep my things with me basically as much as possible. That's one less place things can go wrong. But yeah, this worked out great. So if you are transferring between Disney hotels, I can recommend using their internal system.
Yeah, and just make sure you're very clear with your instructions, because literally they are just writing this down on paper. But if they get that right, your bag is going to end up where you're going, which was pretty convenient.
Yeah. And from there, we stayed at the boardwalk for 2 nights in a garden or pool view studio. We definitely got garden view. It was just trees. We booked the garden or pool view studio simply because we ended up waitlisting boardwalk. And I don't have actual facts on this, but logic tells me that there's probably just way more garden or pool view inventory than standard view inventory. So it is more points, but I felt more confident that we would get off the wait list if we did it this way, and we had the points to cover it, so we did. In general, if you can snag a standard view, I would say absolutely go for it. I personally don't think that the garden or pool view upgrade is really worth the extra points, but if you are relying on the wait list, that is like a factor that you have to weigh. When we were there, the boardwalk was undergoing its refurb, and we did not get put in a newly refurbished room. So we were in like the tail end of the life cycle of a room, and it did seem, a little worn down. There's just like marks on furniture and stuff, but still fully functional.
Yeah, it was a room at the boardwalk. It definitely needs a little bit more love in the future, but I'm sure it will get that. But yeah, I'd say overall it was still a really good quick stay, especially for where we were in our trip and what we were planning on doing.
Definitely. And it's, basically the identical room as we stayed at in 2021, so we knew what to expect going in there in terms of the cabinetry, the bed, the pull-down bed, the balcony, all those things, like very standard, normal for the boardwalk. I think we have the same complaints as last time in 2021, where like, it is kind of a bland room if you ask me. I am looking forward to the refurbishment, and hopefully they inject a little bit more life into those rooms. There was a weird thing I noticed in our boardwalk room though that I don't think happened in 2021, is that the liner for the shower curtain didn't have the little weights in the bottom. And for whatever reason, for like the temperature and pressure gradient, like when you turn the shower on hot, then the liner would just like suck into the wall and smother me personally. So when we were at the Poly, I was, I think, only showering in the walk-in shower, which is a glass door. So it didn't have that problem. And then yeah, just constantly being attacked by the shower curtain at the boardwalk. I was like, what? Like, did you guys order shower curtain liners without the little weights in the bottom? Because I didn't even know that was an option, honestly. Like my whole life, I've just bought bottom barrel shower curtain liners, and they always have the little weights in the bottom. So that was a small annoyance. Hopefully that was just like a fluke thing with our room.
I hope so.
And this is not like a resort-wide thing where they're, saving pennies on shower curtains by not having weights, because that was very unpleasant. But yeah, I like the BoardWalk rooms in general. They're not great, but they definitely are functional enough. I like the cabinetry that's been in there for drawers for you to store your things. Beds are definitely comfortable enough. Balcony is always a nice touch. No real substantive complaints, honestly. I am looking forward to the refurb. I think, the selling point for BoardWalk is definitely the location. The walkability to both Epcot and Hollywood Studios, for me, is unbeaten. I think it's just fantastic. And the points cost for BoardWalk, generally speaking, is quite reasonable.
Yeah, definitely good value there.
Absolutely. I for sure would stay at BoardWalk again. I think I would always, hope to get the standard view room, but because the location is so good, depending on what our point situation is looking like, I would pay the upgrade again to get the garden or pool view room, just to make sure we could stay at BoardWalk. Then our last and final segment of our split stay was over at Bay Lake Tower, where we stayed in a lake view studio. Bay Lake Tower is our home resort, so we booked 11 months out and had our pick of the litter. We went for Lakeview basically just because we had the points to cover it and thought it could be a cool experience. We had stayed in Lakeview once before, but I think only for one night.
Yeah, and their definition of Lakeview is pretty complicated, apparently.
Yeah, we found this out this trip. Apparently, there are rooms that count as Lakeview starting on the 2nd or 3rd floor, we were told, which just blew my mind. So the room we got assigned was decent, but if you ask me, it's a standard view room. And so when we got the room number in the app, I knew exactly where it was because it was just a couple floors above a standard view room that we had stayed at in January of this year. And we went to the front desk and asked, was there other availability? It ended up basically being no, which is fine, that's out of their control. But yeah, they let us know that the Lakeview category starts actually quite low. So our view was basically like the tiniest little sliver of Bay Lake, but some big trees that blocked most of it. We weren't high up enough to see over the trees. And then like the tennis/basketball courts and Space Mountain. So I'm not gonna complain about the partial theme park view.
Right.
I just don't see how that counts as a lake view.
It was still cool to be able to see a little bit of Space Mountain, some Tron from our room at night. That was cool.
Definitely, but we had basically that exact same view in January of 2023 with standard view points.
Exactly.
So knowing that, I am probably not gonna book Lakeview moving forward. I definitely thought Lakeview would be higher. Like we were on, I think the 5th or 6th floor. And I could see that being like, in my head, I was like, well, maybe that's like the bottom tier of Lakeview. Learning that Lakeview goes even lower, like, I don't know that I wanna risk it anymore. When we did Lakeview in 2021, it was one night and I think we were on like the 13th, 14th floor, like pretty high, like something I would expect for Lakeview. So I do kind of feel like we burned some points to stay in Lakeview when we could have stayed in Standard View and essentially had like the same experience. But we bought Bay Lake Tower effectively for one reason, and that's the walkability to Magic Kingdom, which is still fully unbeaten. It is such a perk of staying either at the contemporary Bay Lake Tower, not having to deal with transit to Magic Kingdom, having your own super private, like tiniest line for security. Like it is so nice. And I personally think it's so worth it to not deal with the TTC or even have to deal with very full buses to Magic Kingdom in the morning or after fireworks going back to whatever resort you're at. Those studios are infamously quite small when you look at the square footage, but for us, for just the 2 people, we do find them pretty functional. I don't have any issues with it. In fact, the galley style kitchenette works really well for us because there's a mirror back there that's well lit. So I basically use that as, makeup and hair. I get ready back there while Adam's using the bathroom. It really works for us. I really have no complaints. We don't need that extra pull down sleeper for any reason. So yes, I guess it's tight. I would never put 4 people in there personally. But for 2, as long as you're good with like splitting things up and sharing space, totally fine. Bay Lake Tower is also set to get its refurbishment in the next year or so, so I'll be interested to see what happens to those rooms. Maybe we have gotten lucky, but the recent Bay Lake Tower stays we've had, I found the rooms to be in pretty decent shape, like definitely better than Beach Club and BoardWalk.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that.
So yeah, they just feel less worn down, which is great. I am still very happy that they're getting the refurbishment, but I am ultimately extremely curious to see what they do. For example, are they going to try to squeeze in that like single pull down Murphy bed into the 338 square foot or so studios? I hope not, because I do think that's going to make it considerably more cramped.
And we were also staying there and they had just reopened all of the boats as well.
Oh yeah.
So just having additional transit options back to where we were staying just made it a lot even more convenient if that's possible.
Obviously Bay Lake Tower is our home resort, so we'll definitely be back. There's just no question in my mind. I do think that we'll stick probably to Standard View, either Standard View or Theme Park View studios. Like either we're gonna spend the points and do the thing, or we're gonna save the points. Lakeview, as long as we can plan, 8 to 11 months in advance, which we have been able to do just fine so far, I don't see a point for Lakeview personally. If you do not have a Bay Lake Tower home contract and want to stay there, Lakeview is probably your best bet for the wait list, but just don't be surprised or try to be less disappointed than we were if you get assigned a room on a fairly low floor. And that was the entirety of our split stays for our Orlando trip in October of 2023. So the Hilton Grand Vacations Club SeaWorld was new to us, and staying at the Polynesian was new to us. Overall, I think there were really no substantive complaints. I would stay at any of those places again.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with our choices overall. Definitely would only stay at the SeaWorld if that was like a deal, typically, but overall, I think I was pretty happy with everything.
Yeah, if you are looking at staying offsite, there's a jillion options. There's so many, and we certainly don't have experience with most of them. But yeah, if I wanted to stay offsite, like if I was gonna go with friends and we wanted to save money, I think the Hilton Grand Vacations at SeaWorld is, again, a good central location. The 1 bedroom is definitely big enough for 4 adults. Yeah. 2 of them would have to sleep on a sleeper sofa. So, there might be a little argument there, but at least there's space to spread out. So I think if we were looking at staying offsite, again, if there was a good deal, I would absolutely consider it. Of course, Loews Royal Pacific is always a splurge. I would love to splurge a little bit more, maybe in the future. We'll see what our finances are like. And then, yeah, we're making good use of our Disney Vacation Club contracts. I think BoardWalk is obviously the best deal out of the places we stayed, but it was awesome to get to stay at the Poly for 5 nights, like a really long time to settle in and get to know the grounds. And then Bay Lake Tower's our home. Just love it.
And one last thing for me about the Poly, definitely a great place to settle in for a couple days and get to know the grounds, like Jacqueline said. Really enjoyed the whole atmosphere and the whole hospitality theming. It's just a classic for a reason. Definitely no need to stay in the bungalows, in my opinion, but they definitely look cool and are a fun feature. I
did take a tour of like the sample bungalow with a DVC guide, and it's neat, but if you were gonna try to squish 7 or 8 people in there, it would be tight. Like they're smaller than I thought they might be in my brain. When I look at a floor plan, it's different than like walking through a space, and walking through that space, I said, oh, I would put 5 people in here. Could be a fun splurge in the future, but definitely not anytime in the immediate future. We hope this has been helpful. If you have any specific questions about any of these places we stayed, go ahead and leave those in the comments down below, and we'll do our best to get back to you. What are some of your favorite places to stay in and around Disney World and Universal in Orlando? We would love to hear about it. And if you have any tips about getting deals for offsite locations, we would absolutely love to be educated as well. I am a loyalist to Mouse Saver, but if there's other stuff out there, I want to know. Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate your support. We hope the rest of your day is magical, and we'll see you real soon at Pixie Dust PhD.
Bye.